This is episode number 239 of the InnerFight Podcast. Welcome to another edition of the InnerFight Podcast. My name is Marcus Smith, founder of InnerFight.com. I'm joined in this podcast by one of our female coaches, Carmen Bosmans, to talk about her life, her motivation, and hopefully she provides you with a little bit of inspiration. A massive shout out to our show sponsors, Cream. Remember, download the Cream app, sign up and register with a valid credit card. Use the promo code INNERFIGHT for up to 100 dirhams off your first ride with them. And if you're coming to the gym, use the promo code INNER. If you're leaving the gym, use the promo code FIGHT for 10% off your rides with them. No matter where you are in the world, thanks for tuning in. Let's jump right in. And here we go, probably one of the most requested single guests to be interviewed one-on-one, boss. Yes. How do you feel about that?
I'm so honored.
You're so honored.
Yeah.
I think by public opinion poll, you're number one. I don't know why. We'll dig into that later. Mate, listen, first off, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born. Tell us when you were born as well, because you look about 50, but apparently you're not. So tell us a little bit about yourself, mate, where you're from, when you were born, and what life was like growing up.
I'm from a small town in Belgium. It's called Betekom. Say it?
Yep.
Yep. He's not going to repeat it.
I don't think
there was not much to see in Betekom that much, but it was actually nice growing up there because it's just countryside, and we could just always play outside, and me and my brother, and then some guys who lived in the neighborhood. We would always just play outside and make a fort. We wanted to play war, but we could making the fort. That was just the most thing, because once it was built, we just sit there and we didn't do anything anymore. No,
is your brother younger or older than you?
Yeah, my brother is 24 now. I think he's from 92, and I'm from 89.
Right.
So I'm born.
You're the big boss.
Yeah.
So there was two of you.
Yeah, two of us.
Did you used to beat him up?
Oh yes,
really?
So bad. He had a tough life growing up with me.
Why?
We never got along. It's now since we got out of puberty, we get along now.
Yeah.
But before that, our mom and our dad had a hard time with us. We would always fight. It got bad sometimes. Really. Always somebody ended up crying in the end.
Yeah, that's okay. My sister's 3 years older, and we had similar experiences. But your early life, you said straight away there that you're a lot of time outdoors. When, was that what you wanted to do, be outside, running around, playing? What was it like growing up?
I just like to be outside, and I like to be active. I can't sit still for 5 minutes. I think everybody who knows me in the gym. This is going to be
a problem because we're going to record this for the next 35.
That's why I'm always doing something, or I'm moving my legs when I sit. So I'm just like that. I just like to be outside running. We would go biking or making forts, or we even play Mortal Kombat in real life.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you play Mortal Kombat in real life without killing
we went
each other?
to one corner, and we just we greeted each other, and and we just fight.
Mate, aside from building forts and killing each other, what sports did you play at a young age?
I think the first thing I did was around 6 years old, and my mom put me in ballet.
Right.
Yeah, so I did that for a year.
Right.
It wasn't really something for me. I wasn't really gracious. Like I said, I was always playing with my brother or with the boys in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Never played with the girls. So then you put me in ballet class.
Yeah.
All girls, very girly girls.
Not interesting at all.
Not really. Then one day we had a play, a show for the ballet class, and you could pick as what you would dress up, and all the girls were princesses and all very girly things. So guess what I was?
A guy.
I was a ninja turtle.
There we go.
Or I think it was a ninja turtle or a musketeer or something.
Right.
So I was
Was your mum worried about you at that stage, that you were hanging out with the boys, you're a real boy, didn't like ballet? What do you think she was thinking? Has she told you since?
I think she never really worried about me.
Yeah.
Because I was always a happy person.
Right.
I even in ballet, I didn't really like it, but I still went and I did it. It didn't really.
It wasn't really.
It wasn't really something for me. So then when I started to do gymnastics, I kind of liked that more because it was more challenging, and I really liked.
How old were you when you started doing gymnastics?
I think 8.
Right.
Yeah, and then I stopped ballet, so I said like, "Oh, Mom, if I'm doing gymnastics, I don't have to go to ballet anymore."
That was the deal.
That was the deal. Yeah.
Good negotiation.
And like the coaches there, they saw that I was very flexible and energetic, so I picked up new movements really quickly, and then they said to my mom like, "Oh, we really think she should go to the competition level," and then my mom was very proud that they said it. Of course, they said it. Like I only went like 2 or 3 times, and they already told my mom that, and she's like, "Okay, do you want to do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course."
Of course.
I didn't really think how much effort it would take, and then I kind of got like a hate and love relationship a bit, but with gymnastics, because gymnastics itself was nice, but the trainings were really hard.
Why?
They were just really hard on us.
Right.
Like you really had to perform and do it correctly.
And this is at 8 years old.
8 years, 9. I did it from 8 till 12.
How do you think? We'll talk more about gymnastics in a second. But how do you think that approach at that age sort of starts to shape people and their personalities and a work ethic in the people? How does it work?
Yeah, I think that's where I got that drive from. Like what I have now. Like I want to come in the gym and I want to work out for 2-3 hours, or I won't feel like I did something.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's from gymnastics.
From early. Do you think like it's because sometimes we hear it that kids are pushed too hard at a young age, but obviously, like, okay, I'm a little bit older than you. When I was in school, it was like that as well. It was really tough. Everything was very hard and very disciplined, and the teachers never smile and all this kind of stuff. And now we hear from schools that it's maybe a little bit softer, but you wouldn't change that, right?
I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
At the moment, you think it's really tough, and So at the moment you think it's really tough, but I think it's a good thing. Like you learn discipline at some age. Maybe you don't like it at the moment, but I really like it now when I look back on it.
Yeah. Was it a culture shock from perhaps your early upbringing? Like were your parents tough on you before you were 8 years old, before you went to gymnastics?
No, I had really nice. My parents were always nice. Like my dad could be tough on me because I was sometimes a bit of a brat.
I think
and I would always have the last word.
Yeah.
But no, it was because they were like, we had training camps in the summer, and then the Russian guys came, and they didn't speak any word of like Flemish or a little bit of English, but at that age you don't really speak English.
Yeah, right.
And then you couldn't really communicate with them, so they would just train you. They would pull your legs open, you would cry, but they just don't care.
Really?
Yeah.
So
it was hard.
I imagine there's some really interesting memories of your gymnastics at the start.
True. Like one thing I remember, it's a bit of a weird thing, but I'll share it. It's like when we started to cry because something went wrong, or
you were in pain.
Not so much in pain, but like when you're like being a bit of a pussy and you're like, no, I don't want to do it, or you were scared or something, and you started to cry. They put you in front of the mirror, and you had to just look at yourself, how stupid you looked.
Wow. And
it's really weird because now, if I'm like really, really upset about something and I cry, I feel like I stand in front of a mirror to just calm down.
Fixes it, does it?
And then I calm down.
Wow.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it's very powerful though as well at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Did that come from the Belgian coaches or the Russian coaches? Because
that was the Belgian coaches, but they were they worked a lot with the Russians, so it was like half Russian, half Belgian guy who did that. Yeah.
Wow. So you go into gymnastics, it's a bit of a culture shock. You're forced into positions that perhaps hurt and train hard. Yeah. And how does it progress from there? Did you find that, like, you obviously at the time it was a culture shock because you say, okay, when you're in trouble with your dad, you're in trouble with your dad. I think we're all like that when we're kids. But what was the sort of desire to keep on going? What's the motivation to keep on going in that environment?
I just like to make my parents proud.
Right.
So I just did it for my mom because I know how much she liked seeing me compete, and it just made her really happy. And I just like also just doing crazy stuff, of course. Yeah.
What was your favorite move?
I like the
triple backflip.
No, on the bars.
Parallel bars?
Parallel, yeah, but they were not parallel for girls.
The
girls
one,
one,
different height.
That was my favorite thing.
Yeah. I wonder what
What's the name for it in English?
I don't remember. It's in the Olympics. It'll be coming up. We should. So that's what you enjoyed the most.
And I hated the beam.
Yeah.
The balance beam.
Yeah.
That's where I always cried.
Did you fall off a lot?
So I even broke my wrist on it.
Really?
Because we had to do like backhands on it.
Yeah.
And I fell off in a competition, and they made me do in training like 20 in a row.
Yeah.
And I was just like tired, and then I broke my hand, and that was actually the point when I recovered from that. All my friends who were in the same level, they got one level up.
Right.
Like the highest level in gymnastics.
Yeah.
And I was then a bit stuck in that middle group.
Right.
And then I actually decided, I said, like, I don't really want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I was around the age of 12. I said, no, I want to do something different.
Really?
Yeah.
And did you just stop?
I just didn't show up anymore. I told my mom, I'm not going to go back anymore.
Really? Before we go on to that, you spoke just then that you broke your hand and then the kids got ahead of you. And I guess that sort of highlights a competitive streak in you that obviously still reigns quite true today in a number of different areas. When did you start realizing about competition and competitiveness and sort of almost developing a desire to, I guess, to win? I mean, if you're at these gymnastic things, you probably weren't that keen on coming third, right?
No, of course. No.
So when did it develop and how did it develop?
I think it was always inside me because I always wanted to be first in everything.
Really?
If it's in school, like in sports, I mean, in school it was a bit different.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
But sports was the one thing I was good at. Like I picked up like anything very quickly, so I wanted to be the best in it. If I did something, if anybody asked me, you want to go to judo with me? I said yes, and I did a couple classes of judo, and I beat the kid who was doing judo.
Right.
Like, not even doing it.
Yeah.
So I just, it was just inside me, I guess. I'm born with it. My dad is very competitive.
Right.
Like, he can't handle losing.
What about your brother?
My brother is, I think he has more of my mom.
Right.
He sometimes says, like, he wants to win, but then he thinks like, it's going to be hard.
Too hard.
Nah, doesn't matter.
We'll come back to hard work in a bit, but let's go and touch on something you just brought up there. Yeah. What were you like in the classroom?
I was,
in the
to be honest,
years.
all the teachers, they liked me, but I could be a bit of a brat, but I wasn't the worst person. I would be friends with everybody and nobody a bit. Like, I would hang out with the most popular kids in school.
Yeah.
And I would hang out with the geeks. It's just how I felt. If I liked them at the moment, I would just hang out with them.
Right.
And if there was a problem in class, I would stick up for whoever I thought was right. And I didn't really care what the consequences were going to be. But,
What was interesting for you at school? What subjects did you like? What were you good at? What did you hate?
Of course, I like sports.
Yeah, that's not a subject.
I wasn't
in the
really
classroom.
good. No, that was
outside of the classroom, where you had to actually sit still for 5 minutes.
Oh, I hated it.
Physics.
I liked physics. I liked science.
Yeah.
I didn't like language.
Right.
Like French.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Really?
I think it's just because my first teacher in French, he was a real prick.
Right.
And I think he hated me for some reason. I don't know.
Right.
And that's how I said, I'm not going to even learn my vocabulary. And,
you didn't care.
No, I didn't care. And that's why I just...
Speaking of languages, when did you start to learn English?
I can't really remember. I always watched English series and watched television.
Yeah.
And I watched a lot The Simpsons when I was younger. So I think from The Simpsons I learned English.
Way.
Yeah.
No way.
I think I could speak English a little bit like around 8.
Right.
But
and was there, like, obviously growing up in Belgium, I don't know if your parents had plans to move. I mean, I know your mum still lives there. What was the motivation to learn English? Apart from that you could understand what Homer was saying to Marge.
No, I never had the motivation to learn English. It just happened.
Really?
We went on holiday every year, and then we went always to Spain, but then the kids club, they speak English. So then I just know how to communicate. Yeah,
that's incredible.
And I wasn't really scared to talk, so I think if you're not scared to say something wrong, you just pick it up. And I think even now I make up words sometimes, and then people think, I know,
but that's
like, that's not an English word. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but our your English is always going to be a lot better than our Flemish, though. I'm sure. I don't think I know one word in Flemish. So as you went through school, you finished up with gymnastics around the age of 12. When you decided to stop doing it, what was going through your mind? Because sometimes we stop doing one thing that we've loved. Like, you obviously loved it for 4 years, and you were clearly quite good at it and got a lot of enjoyment out of it. It taught you a lot, competitiveness, discipline. Where did you go into next?
Yeah, I was going to high school, and I just got interested in different things, just going out, hanging out just with boys and in other interests. And I wasn't for a moment interested in any sports.
Really?
Except skateboarding. But I went skateboarding every day.
Yeah.
If you see that as a sport. Then
it is kind of.
Yeah, it was more hanging out on the skate park and.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of did that. And then I started also breakdance. So breakdance and skateboarding from age till 12 to 15.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was getting a bit fat because I wasn't really exercising a lot.
Really?
And then I decided just to go back into the gym, like just fitness.
Just regular gym.
I was on the treadmill. You wouldn't believe it.
Just to try and lose weight?
Yeah, I didn't want to be a fat kid.
Right.
I wasn't fat, but I was a bit...
How old were you?
16.
When you were 16? So
yeah,
essentially
16
from
I
the
realized
age of 12 to 16, like you said,
I didn't really do much of nothing competitive, actually.
Did you miss it?
At that moment, no.
Right.
Once I started CrossFit again, I started to feel the competitiveness. Yeah.
We'll come to how you got into CrossFit. One thing I want to ask you: when you were going through high school, what was your first job that you did that you got paid for?
I worked in a bar.
Did you?
Yeah, as a bartender.
When you were how old?
16.
Is that legal in Belgium?
Yeah, you can drink it at
16.
Yeah.
So you started working in a bar.
Yeah. That was awesome.
that was
at that time, I didn't really drink alcohol yet.
Right.
So it was fine.
But
I didn't really like it. So.
Right. That soon changed.
Yeah.
Talk us through to sort of at the end of your high school, and obviously, as you said there, you're 16. You started going and working out. How did high school finish up, and what did you do after?
I kind of didn't finish high school at first,
right?
And I kind of picked up some jobs because I didn't know what to do, and then I did that for like about 2 years, just random jobs. I worked in different things. I worked in a chocolate factory. I worked in a shawarma place.
Really?
I did the dishes. I worked in like the big kitchens for big companies.
What was the best and worst jobs that you did?
The chocolate company was the worst.
Really?
Oh my God! Really?
Why?
So it's the smell of chocolate the whole time, and then you have to put the cherries in the chocolate, you have the pralines with the cherry in.
Yes.
So you have 2 seconds to put 6 cherries in it, and it comes like every 2 or 3 seconds you have another one. So like tuck, 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 tuck.
Really?
And you can't put 2 in, because if you put 2 in one thing, you get they'll be mad.
Wow.
So it was like for hours you're like. You stand up the whole time. If you're really good, you could sit down.
Right.
But yeah,
it's harder.
It's harder. Yeah.
So that was the worst.
That was the worst thing.
What was the best job you remember doing, sort of back when you finished
I
school?
love working behind the bar.
Why?
I just like it. I don't know, people having fun. It's like going out, but you make money.
Yeah.
And you give beer, you make cocktails. Yeah. I just like it. I don't know. People think it's sometimes a shitty job to be away. Yeah. I didn't like to bring the drinks, but just behind the bar, you get good tips.
Yeah.
And I had like the shirt, because then I had like big boobs, so I knew which shirt I had to wear to get like big tips. Because like one would be like a bit open, and then when you hand the beers, they would see
and
right in.
Super happy.
Yeah.
You had it all worked out. Talk us through sort of the fitness side at that age. Obviously, fitness, working out doesn't often go hand in hand with being in a bar
and
alcohol and these things. So aside from going back to the gym to shed a few kilos, what was happening in your sporting life and in fitness?
That was it.
That was it?
Yeah, I didn't do
anything.
No.
And when did that change then?
When I started CrossFit.
Which was how
23.
old? So literally for 5 years you were just
going out a lot. That
really?
was the main thing.
Really?
Yeah. I would go out on a Thursday and I would come home Sunday.
Really? Just non-stop?
Yeah.
Was your mum worried about that?
I would come home like
just
sometimes, but I would change clothes, maybe take a small nap and...
Not a long one.
Not a long one.
Was your mum worried about that?
No, I always talked with my mom, and she always knew where I was, and I always let her know what happened, and she kind of trusted me in that.
Yeah.
And I always came home eventually, so...
But you just like to have fun, to party?
I always had the fear of missing out a bit, I guess. Yeah. That's why I just always... If anybody said, like, oh, we're going here, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm coming.
Really?
Yeah, and I worked also, so I made sure I had the money to do it, and then I never saved anything. Because if you go out, you spend a lot.
What were you thinking, though? Were you pretty much living for the moment, knowing that was your, like you say, sort of a fear of missing out on your youth as it was, that later on in life, I'll be okay? Or was there something like that going through your mind?
Oh, I never thought of things like that. I lived in the moment.
Right.
I still live in the moment.
Yeah.
And it always worked out pretty well. Like, so why stress, I guess?
Why stress, yeah. Very interesting. So, but at 22, 23, you found this thing called CrossFit?
Yeah.
How?
In a bar.
Oh, my God.
I was going out, and actually one girl who I met in the gym, in the normal gym.
Yeah.
I saw her a couple of times, and we sometimes trained together. Yeah. And then I didn't see her anymore, and I met her in a bar. I was going out, and I was like, hey, where have you been?
Yeah.
And then she said, oh, yeah, but I stopped that gym. I do something new now. It's CrossFit. It's totally something for you. Just come and join me when I go. I'm like, oh, yeah. And she told me about it. And she's like, yeah, it's like pull-ups and lifting weights. And I said, like, oh, no, I don't lift weights, because my boyfriend at the time, he already thought I was like, had big arms, and he didn't really like that. So it's like, I can't really lift weights because I get really easily big.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, but just try it. And then I just looked it up when I came home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I saw a video of the games, and he winning the first year at the games.
Right.
And I showed it to my boyfriend. I was like, oh my God, look, I'm going to do this. He's like, are you going to look like that? And I was like, no, of course not. Those are the best in the world. I'm not going to look like that.
Right.
And then I went there, and I did my first class, and it was 100 pull-ups for time, and I did it with the big green band, because I couldn't do a pull-up.
Of course, yeah.
And that was the beginning of CrossFit.
But aside from gymnastics, you'd never done any weightlifting?
Never weightlifting, no.
You'd never really done like a strength program? You'd just been to the gym?
Yeah, and in the gym I only did abs and the treadmill and
biceps, triceps.
At the time also went on the Concept 2 rower, but I was one of the retards who didn't know how to do it.
What was think back to that, the first workout you went to? There's 100 pull-ups in a gym in Belgium.
Yeah.
What was it really like, aside from the fact that there was 100 pull-ups? But what did you feel something like? Oh, this is different. This is right. Or try and think about what it was like, because I think a lot of people coming into, especially to our gym now, it's the first time, and for you and I, we've been playing around with this thing called fitness for a while, and you sort of take it for granted. But what was going like when you went home that night? What was going through your mind? Except my arms are fucked.
Yeah. No, just the fact that, because I went there and I thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought I was still fit.
Right.
And I wasn't anymore.
Right.
I just always thought, I could do that 10 years ago in gymnastics.
Right.
I will still be able to do it. And I couldn't. And that thing, like, I wasn't able to do it as how I wanted it. Right. That was the thing I couldn't handle. And I was just, as soon as I could go back, I went back and I looked up every single video how to do, because they told me that they do keeping pull-up. But if you never done it, they're like, what were you swinging?
Yeah.
So I looked up so many videos, and I was at the time in college. I was studying, and And I just didn't study anymore. I was just looking on YouTube how to do pull-ups, how to do muscle, like everything, handstand push-ups.
Wow.
I was just obsessed about that.
Do you think because of your relationship with gymnastics before, like because of a lot of the movements that obviously that you just said are very gymnastics based, do you think that's what fueled it?
Yeah, definitely.
Or do you think also maybe because you'd been out of gymnastics and out of sport for quite a long time?
I think a bit of both. Like being out of sports, I was always very happy while I was doing sports, and maybe growing up, getting into puberty and doing different things, I kind of lost that.
Yes.
And I maybe lost a bit the person I really was.
Yeah. Do you think that happens to a lot of people?
Yeah, I think that's why puberty is so hard, right? You try to figure out who you really are, and you try a lot of things, and I think it's good to try a lot of things and make a lot of mistakes, and I definitely made a lot of mistakes in that period.
Yeah.
But I got smarter out of it, and I'm really happy I did all those mistakes.
Yes.
And it brought me to a point that, because maybe if I would have stayed in, let's say, in gymnastics, and I would have been competing in like for 10 more years or something, maybe I would have been a total different person.
Yeah, right.
And not a happy person like I am now. Maybe I would have been like, I don't want to, you start to hate it or something.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you feel like you don't want to do it anymore, just stop and do something else.
Yeah.
And in the end, if it's something really for you, then you will get back to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like me in CrossFit now.
Yeah.
It's a bit like gymnastics was in the beginning of my life.
So it's almost like a rebirth in a way. Like you've got a chance to start again. Tori, something you said there, like you've done a lot of stuff, and I think this applies to all of life. But you've done a lot of stuff, and they're all good experiences. Do you have any regrets?
No.
If you could have it again, would you change anything?
I wouldn't change
Nothing.
anything.
Good.
No, actually, no.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
I met some really awesome people.
Yeah.
I've been in awesome places. I've done fun stuff that maybe some people will never do in their life.
For sure.
So, yeah, no.
Do you think your sort of positive attitude and the fact that you generally just say, yes, I'll do that, or I'll do that, or I'll do that, has it ever really got you in a lot of trouble?
Yeah.
Share something with us. Everyone wants to know.
Really?
If you want, as long as it's not too bad.
I kind of get kicked out of school.
Right, here we go.
Because
it's only taken 25 minutes to get to this, but we're here. What everyone's been waiting for.
I smoked a lot in high school,
right.
And I just kind of sold a little bit of my smoke to my friends.
Right.
Got busted.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it because I was like, I want to make money. I was just helping. I wanted to help my friends out, and they would say, Carmen, can we have some? I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I started just to sell some weed.
Just to sell it.
And then, I got busted for that. So that was one of the negative things and one of the mistakes. But
you learn
of that. And I guess, it's good that I got busted because, I don't know.
It's not such a good thing to be involved in, I guess.
Yeah, that's why.
So it's good that it stopped.
Yeah, it stopped, and then I realized that it wasn't really the way how to live your life, and I'm a much better person
You're
now.
a much better person. Talk about you started to do some secondary education to study. You started a nutrition course.
Yeah.
Talk us through that a little bit and how that panned out.
So, because I got kicked out of school, I didn't really know, and I did all those different jobs. And in one of the different jobs, working in the kitchens, I met some of the nutritionists.
Yes.
And then I was like, maybe this is something I actually want to do.
Right.
And then I thought to talk to them, and then they talked to me about the education, and then I just signed up for that.
Right.
And I got into it. I was really into it the first year. I loved it, and then the problem was because I found CrossFit in the second year. I got a bit distracted from studying,
right?
And because I was paying for myself, like I was paying my education, I was having almost a full-time job, studying, and then CrossFit came, and then I kind of had to make a decision what I wanted to do: keep studying and working, or working in CrossFit,
right?
And yeah.
So you chose to work in CrossFit.
Yeah.
When did what was the transition? We got your first class doing 100 pull-ups, getting addicted, YouTube, everything, trying to figure everything out. Yeah. What was the transition between that time to becoming a coach?
I think I did my level 1. I decided to do my level 1 after like 6 months into CrossFit.
Right.
And I wasn't really thinking of coaching at the time. I just wanted to know more about it.
How to do the movements.
Yeah, because at that time, it's like almost 5 years ago,
right.
there wasn't much knowledge about CrossFit in Belgium or anywhere actually
really.
in Europe.
Yeah.
So then did the level 1, and because I got my level 1 and the coach, the owner of Antwerp was looking for another coach, and he said like, oh, do you want to do an internship?
Right.
And then I said like, oh yeah, and I just shadowed the coaches and helped a bit out.
Yeah.
And because I was good in things like gymnastics, and I had my own way of explaining things.
Yeah.
So, and I really liked that when people came to me and they're like, oh, Carmen, can you show us or help us out with keeping pull-ups or whatever?
Yeah.
And then just explaining to people how to do it, and then that moment when they get it, that's just something really special. Like, I'm even more happy than they are almost, because you help them towards their goal. And
it's
so
very cool.
And then I just got more into coaching, and I kind of made it my full-time job, and I really enjoyed just helping people out, making good decisions in their life.
Is that something that continues to motivate you now? Do you get as excited now when you're able to make that small change in whatever they're doing? Do you think that's one of the biggest motivations to being a coach?
Yeah, like seeing people progress.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Why we all love the job, like seeing that you're changing somebody's life almost, and I just love the environment of being in a gym. Most people are always happy when they come to the gym,
true,
or they forget about the worries they have at work, and they're in the gym. So it's a positive environment, and it's just a place I like to be at.
Talking about motivation, when you were growing up or even now, were there role models, either global sporting icons or I mean, maybe even your parents that you really looked up to, and you said like, when I want to grow up, I want to be like that? Or even now, sporting people that you see characteristics and you think they're great characteristics. Do you have any of those?
When I grew up, tennis, like we had 2 really good tennis players in Belgium, Henin and Klasters.
Justine, Henin, Henin.
So like I wasn't into tennis that much, but just because they were so good in what they were doing, and it was really big, I kind of looked up to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what particular traits did either of them have that you just were like, that's cool? I know when they're winning, it's cool.
No, what I liked about Klasters was just because she was such a nice person. Yeah. Like next to the field, and she was like always smiling, and she was very humble, and and also the way how she played tennis, she could be like so many sets behind and almost having like losing with 3 match points or something, and she would still come back just like because she kept believing in herself, and that was like something I really liked about her.
That's very cool. Mate, you said something earlier about in gymnastics working hard and you know you don't have a problem to come and train for 2 or 3 hours. Talk to us a little bit about that sort of work ethic, and do you think it's something that's inbred in people, like they're born with a good work ethic to try super hard and to put in the hours to get it, or do you think it's something that can be built on? Like, can you teach someone a good work ethic and really a good attitude towards getting better?
Yes, if you start it early.
Right.
And if you're not really like that, I think it's really hard to maybe change that on an older age, because you're just used to being lazy maybe. I think it will be harder to change somebody who's been lazy his whole life. But I believe it's possible. But I think I was just from a young age, you just know, okay, school's finished, you go 2 hours to gymnastics, it's just how it is. And then
you get it.
I don't know.
Your story is quite different to a lot of people that are obviously you are very good at CrossFit, and we'll speak in a minute a little bit about Grid League, but you haven't been what we'd call a sports person or an athlete for your whole life. You sort of had that teenage sabbatical, shall we say. Yeah. So for you, in a way, you've had to work extra hard. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt that as a disadvantage, or has it always just given you more fuel?
I think it was a good thing that I had that break, because I think that's why I wanted it so bad now, because I really wanted to change something. I wanted to prove that I wasn't a stupid criminal who was just smoking weed in high school and wasn't worth anything. Yeah. So that maybe gives me more motivation just to work hard every day and just proving that I can be something.
That you can do it.
Yeah.
Talking about CrossFit, your first workout was 100 pull-ups, which maybe wasn't your most favorite workout and probably wasn't the best way to start your CrossFit journey. Back in those days, they probably didn't have an introduction class. But even today, what's your least favorite CrossFit workout? If I really wanted to upset you, what workout could I give you?
Karen.
Karen?
Yeah.
Really? Just the simple 150 wall balls?
Don't enjoy it.
At all?
At all. At all. Like, I think it's a stupid one. No. I like Murph.
Really?
That's why I do it every year.
Right. So that's not a problem. But something as simple
I like a long workout where you just keep going. Or I like really short intervals that hurt a lot. Yeah. And I know Karen is a bit like that, but something with a ball throwing to a target, I'm just stupid. Not good at. I was when we had sports, we always had like 1 hour a week basketball. Yeah. That was the one sport I really sucked at.
Really?
Yeah, I was really upset about that. So my teacher, you know what he made me do? Because I got so upset that I couldn't really get the ball into the basket. He said, "Okay, Carmen, the hour is over. You can do something you like now." And I would do like backhands or backflips.
Oh, really?
Just to show off a bit.
Just to show that you could do them.
You know that time. Like
ball sports, not your favourite.
No,
On the other end of the spectrum, favourite ever CrossFit workout? Yeah, you like that word?
Yeah, I love that workout. Favourite workout?
You're not allowed to say Isabel or Grace.
No, anything that has pull-ups, overhead squats, or snatches in it.
Right.
That's my favourite.
Just in any combination.
Yeah, any combination.
Mate, you've been, shall we say, relatively successful in CrossFit so far. You're one of the top female girls in Europe.
Yeah.
Because of that, because of your skill set, maybe because of your dashing good looks, personality, probably the latter, you've been invited to the US to, this is the right terms, play Grid League.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right? You play Grid League. Explain to us a little bit about what playing Grid League is all about.
It's a team competition.
Yeah.
You have 8 teams in the States.
Right.
I think 4 West Coast, 4 East Coast, and you play matches over 3 weeks.
Right.
Is the season. Like, it's like this year. Before it was a bit different, but they kind of they changed it.
Right.
I think money problems or something.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 3 weeks. You play different matches, and I think you play 11 games in one match of 90 minutes.
Right. And
you can, if it's you win or lose it, or you tie, and then you get a point or not, or you get both a point.
Yeah.
And then the way how it is every athlete in your team has his own specialty or something.
Right.
You got,
how many of you in a team?
I think 12 people.
Okay. Right. So there's quite a few. Yeah.
So, but it's not all 12 who's going to play that match.
Right.
It can maybe just be done with 6 people or whatever the.
Got it. So if it's something like you're good at pull-ups, so if it's something like 100 pull-ups, they'd pick you, Carmen, you're going to do that part.
Yeah.
And then
somebody else has to do the next part or something.
Next part. Right.
Yeah.
Right. When does it start?
It's the first match I have to that my team is playing is the 18th of August.
So not very long, just a few weeks now before you go, and it lasts the season runs for what, 3 weeks?
3 weeks. So the last match is at 9 September.
So anyone that wants to get hold of you, I was going to say touch you, but I won't say that, but be with you, speak to you, needs to do that whilst you're away for about 6 weeks there, basically.
Yeah.
What do you think on that? Because that's sort of it's an offcut of CrossFit. It's set up by a guy that was in CrossFit. And obviously we know the CrossFit Games is huge. We've spoken about it a lot on the other podcasts. We talk about it the whole time, but it only runs once a year. What do you see? Where do you see competitive fitness going? This is the third year of Grid League, and you're obviously going to be able to tell us a lot more about it when you get back. But prior to going, and I think it'd be a nice podcast to do when you get back, but prior to going, what do you think competitive fitness, where can it go?
Yeah, I think that's very challenging to see how far it can go, because with CrossFit, they don't really see it as a sport that much.
Right.
But then with Grid League, because there's teams and you get paid for being an athlete, that's what professional sport is all about.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the concept, what they want to do with that, and just instead of CrossFit, you have to pay to do the competition.
Yeah, true.
It costs you more money. And then, so it's nice because I think it will motivate more people to get into fitness.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you.
Because now everybody's, or you're into football, or you're into basketball, or whatever sport, because there's where you can make a living from.
Yeah.
You can't really say, oh, I'm gonna hit the gym and that's gonna be my job.
Yeah.
Or, of course, if you want to be a trainer, yes, but just being a real professional athlete.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're the CrossFit Games, you're not getting paid for being there, right?
No, you have to win it to get a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
To live from. And
so you're hoping that Grid League gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, I really hope it. I think they got a bit too big in the first year.
From the start, yeah.
And now they're getting a bit smaller I hope to
build up again.
Yeah, build up again, yeah.
Talking about the future, for you personally, where will you be in 5 years' time?
I will still be here in 5 years.
You've got another 5 years of hot weather?
Yeah, I think so.
What about fast forward a whole long way?
Yeah.
Where will you retire? What will it look like? We've answered this question before, haven't we?
I said, like, I like working in a bar and stuff, so if I would retire, then you don't work anymore, right?
Well,
but I wouldn't mind to have like a small cafe somewhere on an island where it's really relaxed and like I can just go walk on the beach, and it's
How
always
many children will you have?
I don't really think I like to have children.
Really?
I don't think at this moment, no.
It might change.
Yeah, maybe it changes when I meet somebody that I really want to have children with. But now, not really.
Well, I know you've got plenty of offers to meet people here in Dubai, but we're sadly out of time. We can't pimp those out, mate. No. Absolutely awesome to learn more about you, especially for me, for all the listeners. Thank you very much, and we'll definitely catch up about Grid League when you get back and really see, because I think that's a really interesting conversation, and obviously you're going to be a big part of it the next few weeks. A lot of that's on. Is it on ESPN?
I'm not sure if it's this year on ESPN.
It might be filmed through their site.
It's going to be definitely through their site. So it's just Grid League.
Yeah.
If you type that in, you can follow it live. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, boss.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks a lot for tuning into this episode of the podcast, folks, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Massive thanks to Boz for sharing her story with us. Some great parts of that, entertaining all throughout. Massive thanks also to our show sponsor, Kareem. Remember, download the Kareem app, sign up and register with a valid credit card, and use the promo code InnerFight for up to 100 dirhams off your first ride. 10% off your rides to the gym using the promo code INNER. And when you're leaving the gym, use promo code FIGHT for 10% off your rides with them. If you get a moment, please hop over to iTunes, rate the podcast. We'd really appreciate that. And of course, if you do have any questions or you want to come on the show, be a guest, why not? Drop us an email, winning@innerfight.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.